The OED is, of course, the greatest monument to English literature. But if individual works were singled out for inclusion in a pantheon of the greatest works in the language, Bunyan's masterwork, The Pilgrims Progress, would surely be among them. And while the precise date of Bunyan's birth is unknown, November 30th is the date of his baptism in the parish church of Elstow, one cannot help wondering what it would have been like if a banquet of the kind held to honor the completion of the OED were to have taken place. Who would have been invited? And if the constraints of time and place could have been suspended for an evening, who would have desired to be there? For a start, the list would have included many women. Mary Ann Evans, better known as George Eliot, would be among them. Her novels were studded with references to Bunyan and his book, Middlemarch and Adam Bede, to name but two. Her diary for November 25, 1859, offers this tribute, as representative as any she wrote. I am reading old Bunyan again, after the long lapse of years, and am profoundly struck with the true genius manifested in the simple, vigorous, rhythmic style. Moving alphabetically to the top of the list, we would surely encounter Jane Austen, whose novels reflect Bunyan's influence in her use of landscapes to suggest spiritual themes. One can see this, for example, in various elements of Mansfield Park, such as the iron gate and winding woodland path. Indeed, there are many ways in which Mansfield Park might be seen as Jane Austen's Pilgrims Progress, with the characters Edmund and Fanny serving as the Christian hero and heroine. In 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe published Uncle Tom's Cabin, her immortal anti-slavery version of The Pilgrim's Progress. That Bunyan's writings shaped her moral imagination is clear from a letter she wrote some years later while in Switzerland and in sight of the Alps. This morning we started early from Grindelwald, an unclouded, clear, breezy morning. I said to my companion, "The more of beautiful scenery I see, the more I appreciate the wonderful poetry of the Pilgrim's Progress. The meadows by the river of life, the delectable mountains, the land of Beulah. How often have I thought of them?" Closer to Bunyan's time, Samuel Johnson, arguably the most distinguished man of letters in English history, would insist on being among the assembled guests. One can imagine words he wrote about Bunyan forming a toast he would offer in measured, stentorian tones. "Few books," the great Cam would aver, "have had a more extensive sale. The Pilgrim's Progress has great merit, both for invention, imagination, and the conduct of the story, and it has had the best evidence of its merit, the general and continued approbation of mankind." Crossing the ocean to America, Johnson's contemporary Benjamin Franklin might offer a memorable tribute of his own, one taken directly from the pages of his classic Autobiography. "From a child I was fond of reading, and all the little money that came into my hands was ever laid out in books. Pleased with the Pilgrim's Progress, my first collection was of John Bunyan's works in separate little volumes." Still later, Franklin praised Bunyan in an unlikely and rather inglorious setting, a recollection of his journey to Philadelphia as a young man seeking his fortune. Part of that trip involved a brief sail near Long Island in a small craft that was none too seaworthy. It was blown about and battered by a squall, during which time Franklin rescued a drunken Dutchman who fell overboard, reaching down through the water to his shock pate and drawing the hapless man up and back into the boat. Rather than thank Franklin profusely for saving his life, the Dutchman's only thought seemed to be for a book in his pocket that he kept asking Franklin to dry for him. He soon saw why. The book was a finely printed Dutch edition of The Pilgrim's Progress. It must have been expensive, and as he looked back on the incident, Franklin reflected, "Honest John was the first that I know of who mixed narration and dialogue, a method of writing very engaging to the reader, who in the most interesting parts finds himself, as it were, brought into the company and present at the discourse. Defoe in his Crusoe, his Moll Flanders, and other pieces has imitated it with success, and Richardson has done the same in his Pamela." Returning to the 19th century, one immediately thinks of Charles Dickens's indebtedness to Bunyan, as expressed in Oliver Twist, subtitled The Parish Boy's Progress.